So the candidates, I just have the letters in a random order. I don't know if you're here or not. May I get is Ricardo Chavez here? No. No? Brian Cologne. I know you're here. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. I think that sometimes we are concerned with form over substance, and I think that there was issues with letters coming on city letterhead and using city resources for postage to provide an invitation to mayoral candidates to come speak to you. But I'm actually pleased to have this opportunity to go on the record as it relates to these issues that are of importance to the city of Albuquerque, which are police reform and civilian oversight. Let me just begin by saying that this is an issue that I've been interested in for quite some time. I've attended many of the hearings related to this. I've attended in all 6 of the command areas, the CPCs, and sat through many meetings with Dr. Cass and other members as we have tried to come into compliance with the CASA. And I think that there are a few issues of more importance to the city of Albuquerque than public safety, police reform, and civilian oversight. So I do say thank you for that. In terms of my agenda and my plans, if elected mayor of the city of Albuquerque, I have a deep commitment to coming into full compliance with the Department of Justice. I do think that there was a lapse in leadership from the administration standing tall when the Department of Justice came into Albuquerque. I think the department, APD and its leadership should have said, we are going to come into compliance, there will be no resistance, and get their hands dirty and get the job done. And as we've seen in other communities where departments have come into compliance with the Department of Justice and sent them home, you've seen that mayors have gotten their hands dirty. They're involved in the day-to-day operations of the police department. They're working very closely with the chief of police. And I would posit that we haven't seen that here. But instead we have seen a kind of hands-off approach from the administration. I'm sure they would take a position that is not consistent with mine, but from the outside looking in, it certainly feels that way. I think that we will, in a Colon administration, as with any administration from any of the 8 candidates that have declared for mayor, there'll be a change in leadership. And that change in leadership in my administration will have to be an individual who is comfortable with change, comfortable with transition, comfortable with rebuilding a department that has the proper number of officers, the proper staffing, the proper training, and the proper resources, and also have the capacity to have us come into compliance with the Department of Justice, CASA, and the agreement with the city of Albuquerque. You know, we have talked for a long time about making sure that we have effective constitutional and community policing, and I think that that's what this organization and this board seeks to have APD comply with. And that is not any resistance you're going to get from our administration. I think that in order to do that, though, you have to have a capacity. And unfortunately, in the number of hours that you put into this, you don't have a lot of capacity. That's unfortunate. And I think that's got to change. And I'm very much interested in having this organization, this board, truly review and suggest and work with Albuquerque Police Department when it comes to policy changes. I definitely think that we need to have a conversation about your capacity with subpoena power to do true investigations. And I know that's not going to be easily received by everybody, but I do think it's a conversation that has come to the fruition. It's time to have that conversation today. In the Colon administration, we will reevaluate the current position on the policies, the ordinances, and the implementation of the work of this board. Civilian oversight changes will require an opportunity for you to receive primary evidence with subpoena power. And I think that is going to be important as you move forward. Because currently, I've said it many times, the trust has been broken. Trust has been broken both between the administration and rank and file officers, and it's also been broken between APD and the community. And that's unfortunate. And the only way you can rebuild that trust is with transparency and with capacity to have true conversations with the community. That the community can trust this board to do its work and to have that work be substantive. And I think in a Colon administration, that is what we will strive for each and every day. There are several models out there, several conversations going on, whether it be in Rochester or other communities that are reevaluating how their oversight boards and their civilian boards interact with their police departments. I think there's a lot of opportunity to rebuild the trust, but I also think it starts with this board. When it comes to the common citizen, they expect and they believe that you have capacity. If you ask the majority of citizens in the city of Albuquerque whether they thought you had subpoena power or opportunity to get primary evidence, I'm pretty sure they think you do. If you ask them if you had the opportunity to make a recommendation on an outcome of a given situation, an investigation, and what kind of opportunity should take place for reform for that officer or in that given situation, they would think you had capacity to administer that, or at least an appeals process if the administration didn't agree with you. That doesn't exist today. In my administration, I want to reevaluate each and every one of those policies. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I wish you well.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, Michelle Garcia Holmes. Are you here? Is she here? I'm sorry, I don't know you. Wayne Johnson said he would not be coming. Is he here? No, he had a previous engagement. I remember that. That's correct, Mr. Harness. Mr. Keller.
Good evening. My name is Tim Keller, and I am appreciative of this opportunity to share a few words with you. I think, let me just start out by saying that, when I'm invited, I'll show up. I know there's some interesting discussion about the details around this, but we'll save that for another day. If you want to hear what I have to say, I'm going to come here and share it with you. And also, I'm here to listen, and I think I already learned a whole lot, actually, in the discussion that you just had. And so for me, that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to come here, is because I think all the mayoral candidates, including myself, we have a lot to learn on this. As well-versed as we are, I think we should all say that this is a complicated issue, and we got to get up to speed as soon as we can. And we need your help to do that. Now, I do have a comprehensive crime plan, and we'll give you a copy of it, and I'm just going to touch on that in my 5 minutes with you today. But for me, I believe that in Albuquerque, we actually have to aim higher, and we should have an expectation of safety and security and transparency and accountability. And we cannot have a safe city until we own these challenges. So you were going to hear throughout the things I'm going to share with you today, I am not about conversation and thinking about ways and alternatives. I am about action. We are going to figure out what we are going to do, and we are going to finish the DOJ reforms, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to have a transparent, fair, and accountable police department. That's why I'm running for your mayor. Now, for me, I have a comprehensive, detailed vision that's before you, and I want to just thank the folks who've helped me put that together. Folks, community leaders, folks involved with police oversight, actual officers, former commanders, folks from all around the community. And it's a living vision that we already are adapting to. And so the idea is, hopefully on December 1, we will actually have a shared vision to move forward on together, because we've put forth that on the campaign trail, actual specific ideas on how to deal with some of this. And so for me as your mayor, I think we have to address our crime problems head on, and the challenges with your own oversight board head on. And so that's why I'm proposing some specific ideas to deal with that. But I want to open with this. It is going to take a whole lot more than a new chief of police and more officers to fix the issues that we have. So I'm going to start with those two ideas, but I want to acknowledge the reason why that plan before you is 9 pages long is because there's a lot of work to be done, and that's what I'm ready to do as your next mayor. So for me, it's not personal. I am going to bring in new leadership on day one. And it's because I believe in a different vision for the department. And so I think anyone who has experience leading an agency, which I have done in the state auditor's office, and has experience working with legislation and policies that I've worked on as the state senator from the international district, you got to bring in new leadership that shares your vision. And so that's what I'm going to do on day one. Now, I also want to point out that I think some of the cultural challenges and some of the low morale are a reflection of a head-in-the-sand approach from the top and a bunker mentality and a mentality that has blamed all sorts of folks for issues as opposed to saying it is the mayor's job to fix these issues. And so my new police chief will reflect that attitude and will act accordingly, as opposed to the mayor saying, well, the chief has to do X, Y, or Z. We're going to do it together and we're going to get it done. Now, I also want to start with rededicating our community to our police department to community policing. I've seen that in the International District. I know how it works. I know what it's like to actually have a community policing meeting that is about the meth house next door and about the follow-up from the complaints that were received the following week. That is radically different, I think, than what is happening now. And I think we need to be sincere and genuine from the top about what community policing is. It is a whole lot more than a few community policing councils that meet once a month. So I want to get us back to that. And I want to have a leadership team that's dedicated to that. I also believe that we have to get back to standard boots on the ground policing. And so we do need more officers. And in my plan, you're going to see some concrete ways to do that. But it includes using every hour we can of existing officers, even at the top. The chief is going to answer calls in my administration. The deputies are going to answer calls until we can actually get enough officers to adequately serve Albuquerque. We have no room right now for anyone not to be a street cop. And so from the top down, we're going to do that going forward. Also, I believe that we do deserve the best, no matter what happens with our leadership. And so I'll have an interim team to stabilize the department, initiate these activities, and then we're going to take our time, and we're going to do a nationwide search, and we're going to do it right. Now, I also believe, as I mentioned, that we've got to finish the DOJ reforms, and I think that is the mayor's job. That will not be delegated. There will not be a lawyer or general counsel or some other person in charge of that. You can't hold me personally accountable for that. And the last thing I'd share is this board itself. I want to add teeth to this board. I think that means you should have a formal say in policies and procedures, and council should have to vote on whether or not they want those policies and procedures. And when you have a complaint, the chief should come down and personally explain why they disagree or agree with your recommendations. And lastly, we're going to bring in a new PIO, and if anyone lies in my administration, they will be gone. Thank you for that. I, of course, could go on for 30 minutes, but I'll respect your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dan Lewis.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I do want to thank you for inviting us to come tonight. And I think it's very appropriate that this board would have mayoral candidates come and talk with you specifically about police oversight, about civilian oversight, and about the reform of our police department. I also understand, I can identify with the challenges of decorum in these chambers also. I think you do a good job of that, so thank you for serving. I accepted your request when we first got the invitation, and we did have some discussion in the council. My colleagues expressed some concern about this. I expressed an understanding of the fact that I understand that you would want candidates, to come and speak before this board. And my comment was that it might be the first time any mayor has come before this board to speak with you all, and that's got to change. I want to talk with you, specifically about oversight and about this body and the relationship that my administration and my chief of police will have with this board. But I want to start with, in about 2010, 2011, I was one of the first elected officials to publicly say that we had a systemic problem within our police department. And this administration didn't like it, when we said that publicly. Now, certainly, I'm not going to, really claim that I was the first. I was the one with the idea. There was the public that was frustrated, and this administration had completely lost trust with the people of the city of Albuquerque. And so my, agreement with the DOJ coming in and investigating this department was because I think it was important to shine the light at that time, that the only way that we could gain back the trust of the people of the city was to open up the closed doors and shine the light on this department, clear the good officers, and get rid of the ones that were causing the problems. And you all are a very important part. This board is a very important part of those reforms. I was proud to be a part of the creation of the ordinance that created this body, as well as shaping it, voting for it, supporting it, and continuing to fund it. Make sure that you all have everything that you need to be able to do the job effectively. I want to tell you just 3 very specific things that I'll do in relationship to this board as your mayor. I'll ensure that you have a very responsive and a dialogue with the chief of police. My chief of police will be at these meetings. And my chief of police will ensure that you don't have to go through discovery to find out decisions that he's made. When you give decisions regarding policy, regarding disciplines, recommendations on rulemaking and standard operating procedures, that before those decisions are made, that you get that kind of feedback from a chief of police. I'm going to ensure that there's a new day in supporting officers as well as serving the citizens of this city. And I know that that's just one of the best reasons, why this board exists. I want to make sure that officers are reviewed fairly and openly. And I want to ensure that you have access to data so that you can discover patterns of abuse before the decisions are made, so that you actually have real teeth in shaping policy or changes before those problems become systemic. And second, I want to make sure that you all have a real seat at the table when it comes to policy making. Our ordinance requires that you spend over 50% of your time developing policy. And I want to make sure that you have real teeth in that, a legitimate seat at the table in developing policy, that you are brought into the discussion with the DOJ. Not only the mayor being directly involved in leading the way without being drug along by the courts and the DOJ. I think that's a big challenge that we have right now, this administration, but that you're a part of that discussion. You're a part of those changes. And that all standard operating procedures would come to you, certainly before they're finalized. And number 3, I want to tell you that I'm going to ensure that this board is fully funded. This board is funded with a percentage of APD's budget, and I want to assure you that you won't have to come to the council or anybody else for more funding, for training, and for other purposes. We'll make sure that you're funded. I just have great concern for civilian oversight in our department. I think it's been a critical part of the reform, and I'll ensure that we're 2.5 years into this CASA agreement that's supposed to end in 4 years. I'll ensure that we get ahead of it and that we lead it and that we end it as soon as possible. And that we have an administration that is fully in control, along with the great relationship with Oversight that's in charge of this. We'll get the officers that we need. We'll pay those officers a competitive wage so that we'll attract laterals, maybe for the first time in a long time, to be a part of this department. And the question will be how many officers and how fast do we want to have them? But we'll lead the way from the beginning and without being, in 2011 I said that this administration had a bunker mentality and defensive, and that will change. Thanks again for having us tonight. I think this is an important discussion, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Augustus Pedrati. Sir, did I murder your name? Pedrati is right? Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight. In 2014, I was the frustrated public. For me, this candidacy is about seeking justice, access, truth, and a new future, and I intend to find it. You are the vehicle through which we get to do that. We're asking for a more accountable system. We're all telling you the same 4 things right now. Yes, we're going to get a new police chief. Yes, we're going to return to community policing. Yes, we're going to hire more officers. And yes, we're going to finish the DOJ mandate. How we get there, though, is different between all of us, and there's incredible nuance in that conversation. So I appreciate the opportunity to get to come here before you and try and dig into that nuance. First of all, as far as DOJ compliance, realizing that what we need is we actually do need civilian oversight. We do need somebody looking out for us, to be the real arbiters in these situations and to tell us what's going on, and to have a city government involved in every one of those steps. But right now, we've left every functional tool to this board dismantled. CPCs often still struggle over Robert's Rule of Order, and they're unsure how to move forward with real productive messaging. When they do come forward with recommendations, they're denied and they're never answered, which goes immediately against what we were tasked to do here. We've had administrations who haven't even blinked an eye at that. 54 cases at least that haven't been returned by the chief of police. Obviously, the new chief of police will definitely have the opportunity, will be asked and forced to be replying to those recommendations, denying or accepting. And if not, then we're going to keep finding a police chief, and that's something we're going to move forward with. We're going to get an interim chief day one. It's going to change. I also believe that we should get a special master, and we should use every single tool in the DOJ toolbox. If we're serious about compliance, we're not going to cherry pick. We're not going to claim that this is one person or a magic wand, and we're going to use every single resource we have to move this forward. Furthermore, we're going to also understand that it is the City Council that is ultimately responsible for this task. That is something that Dr. Ginger himself said. And then the City Council turned around and pointed to the administration. It's our job to be very clear with what the DOJ tasks us to do and how, and also then to say we are not the administration that will be obstinate any longer. We will hold every single leg of this government accountable and make sure that the city prospers under new leadership. This is so incredibly important moving forward. You all know that, probably more than most of the people that are talking to you tonight, because you choose to put your time here. You choose to go through this incredible process. So thank you for being here. Other ways that we can ensure that we actually achieve these goals, which I do think are the cornerstone of how we're going to move forward, is reinstating trust between a public and its police department. What we have to do then is we also have to ask our police officers what we're tasking them to do. We have to honestly look at behavioral health in our communities. And we have to say that there's no way police officers can be behavioral health professionals. They didn't spend the better portion of a decade looking for this training. There are ways we can implement service-first models to reduce strain on officers already on the street, to better delegate their jobs towards what they were actually trained to do. Again, we'll also reevaluate training through the DOJ mandate. But that way we alleviate strain on the current officer force. We provide better services to those at-risk communities that need it most. And we hopefully get to move forward towards a better community policing model, where we aren't always responding in emergency situations, where things aren't falling through the cracks anymore. And that through a new police chief, going all the way down through the command staff and making sure we get an overhaul over the leadership of our department, we can move forward with trusting our communities again. That there are no miscommunications anymore. And if there are, they are honest miscommunications that are resolved within hours, not weeks. Not at the behest of reporters. For me, what we have to really understand is that all of the structures have already been in place for us to move forward, and for 3.5 years, we've spun the wheels. We haven't put our feet down, and we've been denied data time and time again. Our tools are still the same. It's the new leadership that has to change. And once we actually have access to use every single tool in that toolbox, we will move forward with a cleaner department, with an effective CPOA, POB, CPC, and they will work together. And they will be more powerful as a civilian oversight, more instructive towards community needs than any one city office could be. Because when a CPC meeting meets, you see so many people from a single district talking about their issues, talking about what actually is going on in their community. And no matter how many seats at a table, we would never be able to host that meeting alone from a mayoral office. Communities have to be empowered. Citizens have to have oversight in their police department. And we are going to use every single leg of this to ensure that that's the case moving forward. For me, obviously I'm no police expert. I didn't spend my career in policing. But there is wisdom in this community. There are people who have been yelling at the top of their lungs for 3.5 years about what we've been doing wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that these ideas are mine. I'm going to sit here and tell you that I grew up through this and I saw this unfold, and I'm willing to make sure that we do every single thing we can do to do it different. And it won't be me alone. There's no magic wand here, it's us together. Starting at CPCs, moving up, making sure that any new leadership we have is held accountable to follow this to the end, and the special master with an interim police chief ensures that when we get into full compliance, when we get all of that new leadership, it's a tabula rasa, informed with our context, with our experience, and communities moving forward together with trust and hopefully more prosperity. Thank you for your time here tonight. We're also doing a quick plug. Saturday, Mary Fox Park, we're talking about our entire crime policy in the service first model, which is really exciting. Go ahead and check us out, 10 in the morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. And last, we have Susan Wheeler-Deichel. Is she here?
I'm here.
Please correct me. I'm sorry.
Well, it's pronounced the Deichsel. It's like it's
Deichsel.
Dikesell.
My apologies.
But you're as close as I was the first time I met him. So that's perfectly okay. And I want to start by thanking all of you for giving your intellect, your energy, and your time to this project. This is tremendously important stuff that you deal with. You're not paid. Our time is so valuable. It's the one thing that none of us ever get back. So I believe we all owe a debt of gratitude to this very important board. The people of Albuquerque are understandably alarmed that the police department is under a settlement agreement with the DOJ. The residents of this city no longer feel safe in their neighborhoods or in their public spaces. Nor do many of the residents of this city trust their police officers and executives anymore, and for good reason. This lack of trust follows a cascade of events. It was determined that APD had a pattern of excessive use of force that led to inordinate numbers of deaths of human beings, which was followed by the DOJ settlement agreement, which was predictably followed by an inordinate loss of police officers. All of the crime rates have been rising against a backdrop of economic turn back and terrible poverty. And it's led to the utter exhaustion of the residents of this city. As the next mayor of this city, I commit myself to turning that tide. I will, too, prioritize the hiring of a new police chief and examine the command staff carefully and possibly on a case-by-case basis bring replacements to those positions. In doing so, I will conduct a national search for the very best candidate, but will also look at local talent. The new chief must agree that the DOJ settlement agreement will be completed to a T and in a timely manner, so as not to incur more costs that are absolutely necessary for the oversight process. Our officers will be rigorously trained to use both high-tech and high-touch, which in some settings even saves money in policing today, and smarter yet sometimes less expensive, as I said before. And they've proven successful in other municipalities like Camden, New Jersey. Officers will utilize the most appropriate and cost-effective technologies that they will also be using various modes of transport, automobiles, bikes, walking, horses. Working to build and rebuild trust with communities who feel that they've been left behind. Spending time with those to rebuild slowly and carefully that sense of trust. And we will also work closely with the Police Officers Association and create working conditions that are so enviable that our APD officers will wish to spend their entire policing careers in Albuquerque. My goal is to not only have approximately 1,300 sworn officers on the force within 5 years, but also to have at least 100 police service aides, aide twos, to take the reports on nonviolent crimes and after-crime reporting, but also to increase the number of crime scene specialists to a number that's appropriate to free the sworn officers to do what they're trained best to do. I will order the Civilian Police Oversight Agency to stay intact for the foreseeable future. I will order the creation of seamless ways for civilians to lodge complaints and to heap praise upon their police officers, command staffs, and oversight boards who serve them. Lastly, I will also call upon the residents of this city to enhance the safety of their own neighborhoods by participating in such institutions as neighborhood watches, programs, and to be actively involved in their citizen policing councils. As a single-minded force, united with one another, we, the city of Albuquerque and its residents, will be a city invincible. I thank you so much for inviting us here tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. No, that's it. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone. Thank you all for coming. We are going to take a dinner break and then come back to the business at hand.